You want to watch headline news with me? No? It's not gonna kill you.
Welcome to this episode of Rewind a Closer Look. When people talk about forgotten 90s action movies, Fair Game almost always gets remembered for one reason: Cindy Crawford. At the time, she was one of the biggest supermodels on the planet, and Hollywood looked at that and said, you know what? Let's throw her into a giant action movie with William Baldwin. Explosions, Russian spies, and enough bullets to invade a small country. Honestly, I figured this was just going to be another celebrity vanity project that everyone forgot for a reason. Instead, I got a surprisingly fun B-movie packed with ridiculous stunts, huge explosions, over-the-top villains, and all the wonderfully cheesy computer hacking that only the mid-90s could deliver. Is it dumb? Oh, absolutely. But sometimes, dumb is exactly what you're looking for. So grab your pager, fire up your dial-up modem, and let's rewind 1995's Fair Game. I actually saw Fair Game in theaters when I was a kid, and I've thought about this movie on and off ever since. Problem is, I remembered absolutely nothing about it. Well, almost nothing. I remembered Cindy Crawford was in it, and really, do I need to remember anything else? The movie opens with a nice little upgrade from the standard black screen and white credits. This time they're yellow. Wow, innovation. The yellow text rolls over a sunrise on the beach, while Cindy Crawford goes for a morning run. And honestly, if you're going to have a long credit sequence, this is how you do it. Hell, I'm perfectly fine if this was just the entire 90-minute movie. I had multiple Cindy Crawford posters on my wall as a child, and somehow she's just as gorgeous today at 60. The credits finally wrap up as Cindy leaves the beach and jogs over to the convenience store. Suddenly a gunshot rings out. People scream, a car speeds away, and Cindy realizes she's been hit. Except she's incredibly lucky because the bullet smacked directly into the music player strapped to her arm.
Next, we got another relatively hard object that you might find in the average shirt pocket: the MP3 player, supposedly stopped around from an AK-47.
AK-47 into an MP3 player.
The MP3's down, but did the bullet go through?
Oh, wait, I can see you.
I would say right there, myth busted.
Over at the police station, we meet one of the Baldwins. It's William. I always have to think about his family for a second. It's not Alec. That's the guy who shot someone. It's definitely not the guy from Biodome. And I think William was the one in Backdraft? I don't know. There's just too many Baldwins. Anyway, Baldwin is sitting on hold with his bank because they refused to approve his condo loan over a $26 bounce check from 6 years ago. While he's arguing with customer service, he notices a prisoner being escorted through the station. Foreshadowing? Before we can find out, Selma Hayek storms into the station, and damn, Selma Hayek and Cindy Crawford in the same movie? This film just got infinitely better. She marches over to Baldwin's desk, dumps all of his mail all over the floor, and starts unloading on him about why all his stuff is still sitting at her house. Well, I guess we know why he's desperate for that condo loan. Their very public argument creates the perfect distraction. The prisoner grabs a cop's gun, fires a few rounds into the floor, and takes a hostage. Baldwin, trying to look cool, tells him he's interrupting a conversation with his girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, Selma quickly corrects him. Baldwin then tells the prisoner,
"The 357, shove it up your ass."
And yeah, the guy doesn't appreciate that. He swings the gun towards Baldwin, another officer distracts him, and Baldwin responds by kicking one of those massive old CRT computer monitors straight into the guy's balls, before smashing the keyboard across his face. Crisis over. Now, Baldwin would have absolutely shattered every bone in his foot trying to kick one of those giant monitors while wearing loafers, but whatever.
Doesn't matter.
We get it. He's the hot-headed cop who doesn't play by the rules, but always gets his man. It sounds like something you'd read on the back of the DVD case. Selma picks herself up off the floor completely ignores Baldwin, and as she's leaving, she tells the prisoner.
Next time, shoot him.
The police chief walks in, and it's Shooter McGavin. He's understandably furious about what just happened. He marches over to Baldwin and tells him good job, then immediately gives him a new case, and yep, his next assignment is Cindy Crawford. Whew, if we could only all be that lucky. Baldwin heads into the interview room to meet with Cindy, and she's on the phone, still looking fantastic in that running outfit. She gives Baldwin a quick once-over before hanging up the phone, and then the questioning finally begins. Baldwin asks about the shooting, but Cindy says she's not even convinced there was a shooting. Odd response. Before he can dig any further, the phone rings again. Baldwin answers it, and yeah, it's for Cindy. She spends another minute talking to her work, and at this point I'm wondering if the police station is just forwarding all her calls. We find out she's some kind of lawyer before she finally hangs up. Baldwin tries again. He tells her he has a witness who saw someone shoot at her. Cindy shrugs and says all she knows is that a window broke and she got cut by the flying glass. And then the fax machine goes off, and of course it's for Cindy. Baldwin hands her over the fax, and she casually steals the pen right out of his shirt pocket, signs whatever she has to sign, and complains that she's already wasted over an hour here, and she can't put her life on hold. Baldwin checks his notes and realizes she's a lawyer. The two immediately start arguing. Baldwin claims that lawyers spend all day defending bad guys, and Cindy fires back that cops just want to throw people in jail without giving them a fair trial. Then we learn that she's actually a civil lawyer, not a criminal one. She tells Baldwin that if he's looking for criminals, maybe he should start inside his own precinct. She even claims that Florida cops are the world leaders in corruption. Sure, I highly doubt that. She asks if they're finally done, and Baldwin says yes, and off she goes. And wow, stellar detective work there. He asked her one question, then he spent the rest of the interview arguing about lawyers, and just to keep the running gag alive, the phone rings again and Baldwin answers it. Yeah, it's for Cindy. Back at her law office, Cindy shares a workspace with another attorney, played by Dan Hedaya. He's a bit of a slime ball, and immediately he starts hitting on her, and I mean, that's quite understandable. The two are on opposite sides of a divorce case. Cindy starts grilling him about a bunch of assets his client conveniently forgot to mention. He doesn't even bother denying it. He just says that if he gets caught, the case will just drag on forever and he'll have nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Cindy agrees, which is exactly why she isn't filing in civil court. She's filing in the maritime court. Sure. She slides a photo of a boat across the desk that she believes his client has hidden offshore. The lawyer studies the picture for a second before saying he's never even heard of the Tortuga. Cindy smiles.
I didn't say the name.
And oh, come on. I'm glad this guy isn't my lawyer. She tells him she wants ownership of the boat transferred to her client within 48 hours, or he's going to jail under maritime law, or something along those lines. Either way, she completely backs him into a corner. He storms out of the office while Cindy sits there looking very pleased with herself. She casually tosses the file onto her desk, and the movie pulls off a really nice dissolve from the photograph to the actual ship out at sea, and wow, this thing is a floating pile of rust. Inside the boat is a hidden command center, packed with computers, monitors, and enough blinking lights to make Star Trek jealous. The operation is being run by Steven Berkoff, who asks for a status update. His second in command, played by Miguel Sandoval,
when little Yeti Seinfeld is mine, the check will be yours.
Reports that they're almost directly over the underwater communications cable that they're after. It'll still take another 36 hours to locate their junction box, but they're getting close. Miguel then brings up their little Miami problem. Steven calmly says he'll deal with it himself. Miguel laughs. So much for being this legendary former KGB agent, you couldn't even kill a divorce lawyer. He tells Steven to sit back and watch how it's done. Miguel hops onto his computer, hacks into the DMV, pulls Cindy's home address and somehow brings up what looks like suspiciously like Google Street View 5 years before even Google Maps existed. Apparently this guy invented Street View before Google did. After taking one look at the house, he confidently declares she'll be dead by dawn.
Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn.
Dead by dawn! Dead by dawn!
Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn.
Back at the police station, Baldwin's reading a book about repairing his bad credit. And this subplot better go somewhere. Maybe people start thinking he's on the take because he's broke, or maybe he takes some shady security job for quick cash. Nah. His partner Lewis walks over and says there's something he absolutely has to see. They head over to the window where half the precinct is already standing there watching. Baldwin looks outside and there's Selma Hayek. She's loaded every single thing Baldwin owns into the back of her pickup truck. She throws it into reverse, slams on the brakes, and launches all his belongings across the street and into a taxi. Then she just calmly gets out, finds a baseball bat in the pile, and starts hitting home runs with his stuff. Baldwin just stands there wearing the biggest "fuck my life" expression imaginable. We cut to later that evening. Cindy arrives home from work and checks the bruises on her arm where the bullet hit the music player. And yeah, damn, Cindy Crawford is fine. It's actually distracting. Back at the station, Baldwin is carrying a box containing whatever survived Selma's batting practice. Shooter McGavin walks over, looks at the box, and says it's amazing how much crap men accumulate. Then he tells Baldwin that he screwed up. Honestly, that's Selma Hayek, so yeah, you probably should have worked a little harder to keep that relationship alive. Baldwin goes into full brooding cop mode and says he doesn't want to talk about it. Shooter looks confused. No, I meant you forgot to get Cindy Crawford's signature on her statement, so he wants Baldwin to head over to her house and finish the paperwork. Baldwin points out he's off duty, and Shooter responds with what might be the greatest cop analogy I've ever heard.
Hey, look, you work my shift, it's like the toilet. It ain't over till the paperwork's done.
Meanwhile, one of Miguel's assassins is parked outside Cindy's house watching her. And yeah, I get it, but talk about looking suspicious. Inside, Cindy pours a saucer of milk for her cat. Wait, Cindy Crawford is a cat lady?
They call her the cat lady. People say she's crazy just because she has a few dozen cats. But can anyone who loves animals that much really be crazy?
She wanders out onto her balcony, staring thoughtfully into the distance. Also, why doesn't she have any curtains on any of those giant bedroom windows? I'm surprised she doesn't have random guys standing outside watching her every night. Actually, maybe that's why the assassin doesn't look suspicious. Maybe it's just a normal Tuesday. Baldwin arrives at Cindy's place, and now he's sitting outside watching her. See? Totally a common occurrence. Inside, Cindy asks her cat if she wants to watch TV. The cat, being a cat, doesn't answer. She grabs the remote while still standing by the door, hits the power button, and the TV explodes. Holy shit. Another explosion caused by a completely ridiculous household object. Add that one to my ever-growing list. The blast launches Cindy right off her second-story balcony and into the water below. The assassin watches with satisfaction until Cindy surfaces. He immediately runs over and starts shooting at her. Baldwin is already on the scene, and instead of, I don't know, taking cover and returning fire, he dives into the water while shooting. Naturally, he doesn't hit the guy. The assassin escapes, and Baldwin swims over to rescue Cindy instead. Back aboard the Tortuga, Steven gets a phone call. The assassin reports that Cindy is still alive, and Steven slowly walks over to Miguel and tells him he's getting very tired of his incompetence. Miguel isn't worried. He reminds Steven that he's the hacker, the brains of the operation.
What are you going to do now? Shoot me?
Yes.
Fantastic line. Steven immediately turns to some random guy standing nearby. Can you do everything he does? The guy nods. Congratulations, you're promoted. Then Steven orders a fully armed ground team to be ready in 10 minutes. Baldwin and Cindy are riding in the back of a police car to somewhere. You'd think after surviving a massive explosion, she'd be on her way to a hospital, but movie physics. Baldwin gets a call on his radio from the forensic tech back at Cindy's house. She says all they found is a blast pattern and a strong smell of marzipan. And I was about to make a joke, but apparently that's actually a real byproduct of certain explosives. Baldwin asks if it was Semtex, and the forensic tech says the bomb was arranged in a military-style kill configuration designed to maximize the blast radius. Which is funny because Cindy is somehow still sitting here with barely a scratch on her. She finishes by saying that this is definitely the work of professionals. And at this point, if Baldwin hasn't figured out Cindy knows more than she's admitting, he might actually be a terrible detective. The police car finally reaches its destination. The hospital? Nah. The police station? Nope. A sketchy rundown motel? Absolutely. Baldwin hands Cindy over to a couple officers while he heads off to check the back entrance and stash a Jeep? Wait, what Jeep? Didn't you guys arrive in a police car? Whatever. The officers escort Cindy upstairs, and meanwhile, Steven's convoy is already on the move. Their SUVs are packed with even more computers, and they've got some weird contraption mounted to the roof. Satellite uplink, maybe? Magic hacker attenda? Who knows? Whatever it is, it apparently lets them hack into absolutely everything and pull up every little bit of information on Cindy. Upstairs, the two officers assigned to protect her are arguing over who's paying for the Domino's pizza.
Well, that's where I see things just a little differently. Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
Cindy finally gets tired of listening and tells them she'll buy it herself, but to order it from some local little pizza place because she has an account there. Now I know this is the 90s, but having a running tab at your neighborhood pizza joint in the middle of Miami seems a little weird. Baldwin walks in, immediately calls the two cops jabronis, which made me laugh way more than it should have. He sends them outside to secure the perimeter. But what about their pizza? He finally asks Cindy how she's doing. Not surprisingly, she's not thrilled. Baldwin explains she's being hidden in a witness protection safe house. I'm not a witness, she says. I'm a target. And, well, tomato. She asks what Semtex is after overhearing Baldwin talking to the forensic tech. He explains it's a military explosive usually associated with terrorists. Whoever's after her, they're professionals. And instead of asking the obvious question like of, who do you think is trying to kill you? He simply hands her a towel and some clean clothes and tells her to take a shower. Detective of the year, everybody. Over at the pizza shop, the cashier rings up Cindy's order, and yep, that's why the movie established she had an account there. The hackers detect the credit card purchase, hack into the pizza shop computer, and pull out the delivery address. Boy, these guys are good. Although, how exactly do you hack a pizza shop's order terminal in 1995? I highly doubt that thing was connected to the internet. It was probably still running DOS and used exclusively to tell Kyle in the back to make another pepperoni. The assassins set up a roadblock, force the delivery driver out of his car, and then just shoot him. And I get it. I hate olives on my pizza too. Back at the motel, Baldwin jumps into the shower, and I'm sitting here thinking, you have Cindy Crawford in your movie, and you choose to film William Baldwin taking the shower? Outside, the fake pizza delivery woman arrives, and one of the officers lets her inside. She hands over the pizza, then immediately shoots the guy with a silenced pistol. She radios Steven, who's watching everything from his truck using this fancy infrared camera setup. It actually kind of reminds me of the thermal rifle from a racer.
I've got movement southwest corner of the warehouse. Oh, it's nothing.
Steven calmly guides her to the next officer. Unfortunately for him, he's busy taking a leak. The guy finishes up, flushes the toilet, which causes Baldwin's shower to suddenly go ice cold. And somehow, that makes Baldwin disappear from the infrared camera. Sure, The bathroom cop walks out. He's immediately gunned down. And just like seemingly every movie cop ever, he squeezes off about 6 rounds straight into the ceiling while dying. Baldwin happens to be directly above him and almost gets ventilated through the floor. He jumps out of the shower, grabs his gun, and tries calling the other officers. No answer, because they're all dead. He hurriedly throws on his pants, then tosses the hairdryer into the toilet to kill the power. I don't think that's how electricity works, but it works here. The entire hotel goes dark, and Baldwin sneaks outside and finds one of the goons talking to Steven over the radio. Just as Baldwin's heat signature comes back, he drops the guy. He ducks back into the darkness, but Pizza Lady somehow knows exactly where the breaker panel is and restores the lights. Discount Dolph Lundgren spots Baldwin and opens fire. Baldwin dives into Cindy's room, tackling her off the bed just as bullets start shredding the place. After returning fire, he finally kills Discount Dolph, and he heads into the hallway to assess the damage. He notices one of the spent shotgun shells. It's marked with the number 33. That seems oddly specific. I'm betting that'll matter later. But before he can think about it any longer, he notices the Pizza Lady's shadow. He bolts back into Cindy's room, locks the door, helps her up, and rushes her into the kitchen, while Pizza Lady starts blasting her way in. Baldwin grabs a chair and smashes out the kitchen window. Steven radios Pizza Lady and orders everyone to pull back before the police arrive. The trucks screech up outside, Pizza Lady jumps in, and they peel away. She tells Steven that they got away. They? Steven asks. Yeah, she's got a super cop with her now. Apparently Baldwin wiped out their entire assault team. Or at least that's the story she's going with. Baldwin calls his partner Lewis and tells him they need to meet. He also wants to bring the FBI because he thinks there might be dirty cops involved. Lewis tells him to meet where they used to hang out on Friday nights, and they hang up. Steven asks how long it'll take to reach police headquarters, and it's 5 minutes. The convoy immediately peels around the next corner and heads straight for the station. In the meantime, Baldwin makes one more phone call, this time to the forensic tech lady. He asks her about the shotgun shell he recovered. He says it looks like a standard 12-gauge shell, but it's stamped with the number 33. And would you look at that, it actually came back into the story. The forensic tech says 33 isn't a real ammunition designation. It's what's known as a phantom cartridge.
Spooky.
Maybe it's something brand new? She tells Baldwin to give her an hour so she can search the databases. Oh, the good old days before Google. Baldwin hangs up, and then they drive to the airport short-term parking garage? Sure. Back at the police headquarters, Lewis, an FBI agent, who's been assigned to the case, head off to meet Baldwin. Meanwhile, Baldwin and Cindy step into the elevator at the parking garage. Lewis and the FBI agent arrive moments later, and, I'm an idiot.
You just realized this now?
When Lewis said where we used to hang out on Friday nights, he meant he was working security at the airport. It wasn't nostalgia, it was the rendezvous point. Baldwin checks the FBI's agent credentials before trusting him, and then he leads him back to where Cindy is hiding. Steven and his gang arrive and are instructed to block the exits. Everyone piles into 2 vehicles. Cindy rides with Baldwin and the FBI agent. Lewis takes the second car with the other guy. The FBI agent immediately lights up a giant cigar. Nothing says professional federal agent quite like hotboxing your witness transport. Meanwhile, in Lewis's car, the other guy casually tells him to buckle his seatbelt. Lewis looks down, and the guy shoots him right in the dick. Then the neck. As Baldwin cars passes by, he sees Lewis has been hit. He instantly draws his pistol and starts firing inside his own vehicle. He kills the FBI agent, then shoots the driver too. Somewhere in all this chaos, something explodes. A gas tank? I don't know, a lucky bullet? I don't know, movie logic. Both vehicles slam together and burst into flames. Baldwin and Cindy are trapped in the back seat, but manage to crawl out through the rear window. Baldwin notices some movement in the other wrecked car and just empties a few more rounds into it for good measure. Whoever inside survives. The 2 jump into Baldwin's Jeep and drive away. Wait a minute, what happened to Steven and his entire convoy blocking every exit? Did they just decide to take a coffee break? Back on the road, Baldwin blames himself for Lewis's death. He says he did everything right.
I checked their ID.
Yeah, unfortunately, these guys are professionals. A fake ID probably wasn't that much of a challenge. Back in the parking garage, Steven's truck finally pulls up. The last surviving goon climbs aboard. Steven gives him one simple warning.
Fail again, I'll kill you myself.
Hold on, so they were here the whole time? And why did they just let them drive away? Oh, never mind. Our pair decide that the best option is to disappear into a huge downtown hotel. The logic being, is it safer because there are lots of people around? Unfortunately, Cindy has no cash and Baldwin is completely broke, so they pay for the room with Cindy's credit card. Even the hacker sitting in the surveillance van calls them idiots.
Idiots. They use a credit card again.
Using the same credit card that the bad guys have already tracked twice probably wasn't the greatest idea. Pizza lady smiles. ETA, 10 minutes. While checking in, Baldwin notices a sign written in several foreign languages, and that's when he has his big aha moment. He immediately calls the forensic tech. What if the 33 isn't a number? What if it's another language? She says she'll check. Oh, the good old days, back when your search engine was a forensic lab technician. Back at the lab, the forensic tech finally runs a shotgun shell through her database, and wait a second, she never enters anything about the 33 being another language. She just runs the shell exactly like Baldwin asked her to an hour ago, and she immediately gets a match. So, did she just not bother checking the first time? Whatever, movie's got a movie. Back at the hotel, Baldwin has an absolute meltdown because his key card won't open the room. Cindy calmly takes it out of his hand, and it works the very first try. That'll humble a man. Inside, Cindy collapses onto the bed, looking like she's ready to finally get some sleep. Baldwin isn't having it. He tells her to wake up because it's time for some answers. And holy shit, it's about goddamn time. Baldwin starts piecing everything together. She's a lawyer. She has clients. She has lawsuits. So this has to be connected to one of her cases, right? I guess it's possible, Cindy says. Possible? Of course it's connected to one of your cases. What else could it possibly be? Baldwin suggests maybe someone she put away in prison is looking for revenge. For what feels like the 10th time, Cindy reminds him, I'm not that kind of lawyer. Nobody gets murdered over her type of cases. Baldwin finally loses his patience. Well, people are getting murdered. Instead of answering, Cindy simply walks into the bathroom and starts a shower. At this point, she's either the worst lawyer in America or she's definitely hiding something. Back at the lab, the forensic tech calls Baldwin with the results. She says the shell's used exclusively by elite KGB operatives, and the mysterious 33 isn't actually the number 33. It's two Cyrillic Zs, supposedly meaning death to the west. Sure it does. She explains only the KGB best operatives carried this ammunition. She then warns Baldwin not to use any of his electronics because these guys can hack absolutely anything and use it to track him. As she says this over a telephone. She also explains that these operatives worked aboard Soviet surveillance ships. Baldwin suddenly has another realization. So that's how the fake FBI's IDs were so good.
They must have done it with computers.
Well, yeah, it's 1995. Computers do, in fact, exist. The forensic tech tells him to call back if he needs anything else and hangs up. Meanwhile, Cindy is taking a shower, and unfortunately for us, Baldwin's shower scene was somehow more revealing.
Oh, come on!
Baldwin paces around the room, trying to figure out how the assassins keep finding him. Then it finally hits him. The phones. Wow.
Ring.
Took you long enough. Almost on cue, the phone rings, and Baldwin answers it. It's Steven. He calmly offers Baldwin $250,000 to hand Cindy over. And honestly, that seems a little low for Cindy Crawford. Baldwin agrees. No, $500,000. Now we're talking. Although I'd probably still hold out for at least $1 million. Baldwin apparently agrees with me because he hangs up. He yells towards the bathroom, hurry up, we gotta go. Then he gets an idea. He picks up the phone, dials a random number, which just happens to be some variety store, and starts loudly threatening Steven, knowing full well that the bad guys are listening in on the call. Steven tells Baldwin those are empty threats because he has no idea who he's dealing with. Baldwin disagrees. I know exactly who you are. And he speaks Russian to the guy.
Do svidaniya, asshole.
And hangs up. Steven is not amused. Back in the surveillance van, the hacker magically hacks the hotel's electronic key system and locks every room in the building, trapping Baldwin and Cindy aside. Baldwin's solution: he pulls out his gun and just shoots the lock off the door. Problem solved. The two head downstairs, jump into Baldwin's Jeep, and hit the road once again. Back upstairs, Steven and his team are coming out of the hotel room after finding it empty. Steven is still stewing over Baldwin figuring out the Russian connection. If he knows they're former KGB, what else does he know? As far as I could tell, the whole international assassination campaign is happening because a surveillance ship is technically part of a divorce settlement. Even if they kill Cindy, wouldn't just another lawyer inherit the case? I don't really see what murdering the attorney accomplishes, but whatever.
Explosions!
Our pair stop for gas. Parked beside them is a transport truck full of pigs. Baldwin pulls out his cell phone, turns it on, and casually tosses it into the pig trailer. Back in the surveillance van, the hacker immediately locks onto the phone signal. They plot an intercept course and confidently announce they'll have Baldwin by midnight. Meanwhile, Baldwin is laughing his ass off because he thinks he's just pulled off the greatest deception in police history. It was a decent idea, but maybe don't throw yourself a parade just yet. While they're waiting, Cindy thanks Baldwin for sticking with her. It almost turns into a nice little character moment until we cut back to the villains. They stop the hog truck, drag the poor driver out, and search the trailer, eventually discovering Baldwin's phone sitting in with the pigs, and they've been played. The next morning, Baldwin's already awake, wandering around outside, looking like he's questioning every life decision that's led him to this point. He climbs back into the Jeep, waking Cindy up, and they get back on the road. Baldwin asks her if she has any Russian clients. After all, they've now confirmed the assassins are Russian. No, but I have a Cuban client. Well, that's Russian adjacent, at least by 1995 movie logic. Cindy says she just needs access to her case files to confirm. Baldwin immediately shoots the idea down. They are not going back to Miami. Cindy smiles and says there may be another way. Back with Steven's crew, the hacker suddenly realizes Baldwin's Jeep has a tracking device installed and wait, now you noticed? And really? That rusty old Jeep has a tracking system? No wonder Baldwin's broke. He spends all his money on gadgets.
I'll get you yet, gadget.
The hacker starts rambling about encryption protocols and signal masking. Basically, hacker stuff. He says it'll take a while to crack. And our heroes pull into a computer store. Cindy fixes her hair, straightens herself up, and walks inside. And damn, she knows exactly how to turn heads. She immediately starts flirting with the staff. Cindy walks up to one of the employees and asks if any of the computers have a communications package. And I've got a package you can communicate with.
Right to jail, right away.
The poor nerd behind the counter immediately starts stammering about baud rates and modem speeds. Cindy asks if she can use one of the computers to test it out. And I think if she'd asked for the entire store at that point, he probably would have signed over the deed. Can't blame the guy though. Meanwhile, back aboard the KGB spy ship, the divers finally locate the underwater communications cable and prepare to tap into the junction box. Steven gets a radio update confirming everything's on schedule. Inside their surveillance van, the hacker notices Cindy remotely accessing her office computer. He says if she stays connected long enough, he'll be able to trace her location. And if you ever downloaded files over dial-up in the 90s, you know she's going to be sitting there for a very long time. Baldwin walks into the store and tells Cindy they need to hurry up. She says she hasn't found anything yet, until one name catches her eye. That's him, the Cuban client. She immediately faxes the file over to the forensic tech to see if she can dig up anything useful. As they're leaving, Cindy thanks the computer guy with a kiss, and that dude is never watching his face again. I honestly wonder how many guys auditioned for this role. Probably 10,000. Back on the road, Baldwin asks about the Cuban client. Apparently the guy smashed his wife's face into a wall. He was charged, but managed to avoid prison because he and his lawyer exposed a massive fraud scheme in exchange for immunity.
What's his beef with you?
Which I want to know. Well, immunity for criminal charges doesn't protect you from divorce settlement. Most of the guy's wealth is tied up in a ship. That very same ship Cindy is trying to seize for his ex-wife. Okay, now the plot kinda makes a little bit more sense. Steven's goon squad arrives at the computer store just minutes too late. They start questioning the employees with their feet. After roughing everyone up, they check the computer Cindy was using and discover the fax log. Now they know the forensic tech has been helping Baldwin, and As Baldwin and Cindy continue driving, the Jeep's radiator suddenly explodes. Good thing Baldwin spent his money on a low jack instead of basic maintenance. While Baldwin is on his phone calling for a tow truck, Steven's hacker finally breaks through the Jeep's tracking system, and they've got their location. Steven decides to split up. The hacker will hunt down Baldwin and Cindy, while Steven has a different distraction in mind. Back with our heroes, Baldwin hangs up the phone and says the tow truck is on its way. He tells Cindy that there's some clean shirts in the Jeep if she wants to change, and I'm sitting here thinking, please change your shirt, please change your shirt, please. Oh, thank God. While Cindy changes, Baldwin starts talking about how everyone in his family became police officers. Does any of this matter? Not really. I think the writers just needed something for Baldwin to say. Well, Cindy Crawford changed clothes. Honestly, just some background music probably would work just fine. Back at the lab, the forensic tech is hard at work while smoking a cigarette right beside a table full of beakers and chemicals. The 90s. She's running the name Cindy faxed over, and a file pops up, and it's Miguel. You know, the hacker Steven shot earlier. She starts digging deeper, pulling up all of Miguel's known associates. One by one, their photos appear on the screen, including Steven. Unfortunately, she never sees it. The door buzzer goes off, and she gets up to answer it just before Steven's picture pops onto the monitor. Talk about bad timing. She opens the door, and wouldn't you know it, it's Steven himself, pretending to be internal affairs. Yeah, I'm sure this will end well. Back with Baldwin and Cindy, the tow truck has arrived and the driver's hooking up Baldwin's Jeep. He mentions something about a punctured radiator, and was it a proboscis from a giant mosquito? Rewind available on this channel. Baldwin suddenly notices the low jack antenna he's completely forgotten about. He snaps it off, so that's how they've been tracking us. Little late to the party there, buddy. He tells Cindy they need to move fast. The two climb into the tow truck. The driver refuses to go anywhere until Baldwin pays him. Then the assassins arrive. The tow truck driver immediately bails out. You know, can't really blame him. Cindy slides behind the wheel and the chase is on. They tear out onto the highway.
Head out on the highway!
As bullets start flying, Baldwin climbs out on the running board, firing back while hanging halfway out the door. He narrowly falls off, but keeps shooting anyway. Realizing his Jeep is slowing them down, Baldwin climbs all the way to the back of the tow truck and starts trying to cut it loose. Just then a semi pulls out in front of him, and Cindy swerves hard, drops into the ditch, blasts through his stop sign, and sends Baldwin flying onto the hood of his own Jeep. His gun slides across the roof. As he's crawling across the moving vehicle trying to reach it, the assassins keep ramming the Jeep over and over. Baldwin finally grabs the pistol, fires a few more shots, then kicks out the side window and climbs inside. One of the goons lands a lucky shot, hitting the Jeep's fuel tank. The back of the vehicle erupts into flames, and Baldwin kicks out the windshield. He climbs out onto the hood, and just as another volley of bullets comes his way, launches himself back onto the tow truck. And holy damn, that stunt was awesome. Let's see that again. Baldwin grabs a hammer and knocks the Jeep loose from the tow truck. Except the cable is still attached, So now they got a flaming jeep whipping around behind them like the world's deadliest wrecking ball. The assassins race ahead and block the highway. One of them steps out with an RPG. Baldwin tells Cindy to slam on the brakes, then he cranks the steering wheel. The burning jeep swings around the cable, smashes straight into the goons, and explodes. Now that was fantastic action sequence. Cindy climbs out of the truck and starts walking away. She's had enough. She just wants this nightmare to be over. Baldwin tells her that they're in this together now. When she refuses to get back in the car, he handcuffs her to himself. Problem solved. They steal somebody's car and just drive away. After they've driven for a while, Cindy finally calms down. She asks Baldwin to take her cuffs off, and he reaches for the key, then stops. The handcuff key was in the Jeep. You know, that one that just exploded? They pull over, and Baldwin decides there's only one way to get out of the handcuffs. He shoots the chain. Sure. That somehow works without blowing either of their wrists off. And the second she's free, Cindy shoves Baldwin and takes off running. What? Where exactly does she think she's going? She crashes through some bushes, reaching a set of railroad tracks just as a freight train rolls by. And she actually jumps aboard, leaving Baldwin standing there. And that's two of the hottest women on this planet who have ditched you now.
Oh, what a loser!
As Cindy rides the rails, Baldwin jumps back into his stolen car and tears after the train. Eventually, the road runs right alongside the tracks. Baldwin lines up with one of the boxcars, sets the cruise control, and starts trying to jump across. Unfortunately, every few seconds, a telephone pole gets in the way, forcing him to swerve back into his lane. Finally, there's a long enough opening. Baldwin leaps, and the car slams into a pole and explodes. And Baldwin lands safely inside the train. And wow, another really cool stunt. Cindy, she's less impressed. She immediately slaps him. The two argue for a while. Cindy even punches him a couple times. And when she goes for a third, Baldwin catches her fist. And naturally, they just start making out. In the meantime, Steven's men are searching for a helicopter. They can't find Baldwin's car, and one of them suggests maybe they jumped onto the train. And, you guys can't see that giant flaming car wreck beside the tracks? Back aboard the love train, Baldwin and Cindy are still making up for lost time. Eventually, the helicopter flies right alongside the train, and the crew fires up the infrared camera again, and they immediately spot our two lovebirds inside one of the boxcars. Apparently, they're so distracted, they don't even hear the helicopter or notice that giant searchlight sweeping across the train. The helicopter hovers overhead while a couple of assassins rappel down onto the roof. Meanwhile, Cindy reaches into Baldwin's pants and pulls out his gun. I'm just gonna let that line sit there. After a few minutes, one of the goons quietly slips into the boxcar. He switches on his laser sight and paints a nice little red dot on Baldwin's bare backside. Then he just kind of stands there. I mean, it is Cindy Crawford. And then, the moment teenage me had been waiting for back in 1995, we finally see Cindy's boobs. Oh boy. Although, since we never actually see her face in the same shot, I'm about 99% sure those are stunt boobs. Out of the corner of her eye, Cindy notices the laser sight. She grabs Baldwin's gun and blasts the assassin. And yep, her shirt is actually back on in the very next shot. I'm guessing the script originally had her firing the gun topless, and Cindy Crawford politely said, absolutely not. Our heroes hurriedly get dressed just as another assassin storms the boxcar. A firefight breaks out, and Baldwin tackles the guy, and both of them go flying out the open train door. They slam into a parked car below hard. As Baldwin struggles to get back onto his feet, he looks up just in time to see Cindy being dragged off into a helicopter. It lifts off and disappears into the sky. Baldwin searches the dead assassin and finds a radio. Listening in, he overhears Steven giving orders. They're heading back to the Tortuga, and Steven even gives the ship's coordinates over the radio. also orders his men not to hurt Cindy because he wants to question her himself. Good luck with that. She doesn't know a damn thing. Baldwin digs through the dead guy's gear and finds a map. Then he looks down at the body and says,
You're coming with me.
Why? He's not going to be much help at this point. We cut to Baldwin driving the abandoned car he and the goon landed on. How he got that thing running is anyone's guess. He grabs the radio and somehow uses it to make a phone call. I don't think that's how radio works, but okay. He calls the forensic tech, only her lab is completely trashed. Their answering machine picks up, and instead of her voice, it's Steven's. The message calmly tells Baldwin that the forensic tech is dead because she helped him. And to make things even worse, we found out that she's Baldwin's cousin. Steven finishes the message with another
Das Vidania to you, asshole.
That line is living in this guy's head rent free. Out at sea, the scuba divers are still working on the underwater cable junction. How long does it take to splice one cable? It feels like these guys have been underwater since Act 2. Aboard the Tortuga, Cindy is brought before Steven, and how did her shirt get so filthy? It was bright white before she got on the train. Steven starts finally explaining his master plan. They're intercepting international wire transfers. Okay, but why is he telling Cindy any of this? She has absolutely nothing to do with this operation. Hell, I'm still trying to understand why they wanted her dead in the first place.
You a fucking moron?
Steven rambles on, saying everything was going perfectly until she came around and ruined it. What? She didn't even know you existed until you started trying to murder her. She hasn't been investigating you. She hasn't been chasing you. She spent the entire movie running away. Then, we finally get the explanation. Apparently, if Cindy came to repossess the ship, she would have brought U.S. Marshals with her. Okay, so how exactly does killing her stop the repossession? Wouldn't another lawyer just show up a few days later? It might delay things, but it certainly wouldn't stop them. Whatever. Steven tells Cindy she can have the boat back in little pieces. And we cut to a bomb. Wait, so now you're planning to blow up the ship? What? Why not just finish stealing billions of dollars, then let her repossess it? Mission accomplished, no one's the wiser. Seems much easier plan to me. The divers finally finish tapping into the cable, and back aboard the ship, money starts flowing into the crew's offshore accounts. Just then the radio crackles, and it's Baldwin. He pretends he knows exactly what's going on and offers Stevens a deal. Give him Cindy, and he'll keep quiet. Steven laughs, no.
Stay out of my business for the next 4 hours, and I'll leave her just where she is.
He conveniently leaves out the part where she'll be sitting on a boat rigged to explode. Baldwin calls bullshit, and Steven responds,
My word is my bond.
Kind of funny considering Steven actually appeared in a James Bond movie. I think it might have been Octopussy.
General Gogol is presumptuous. He speaks for himself and others who cling to timid, outdated, and unrealistic policies. Must I remind you, the committee, of our overwhelming superiority over NATO forces before we give it away?
The call ends, and Steven immediately orders his men to kill Baldwin. He explains that the radios only have about a 10-mile range. There's only one piece of land inside that radius. Take the Zodiac, find Baldwin, make him dead. The Zodiac team quietly lands on the beach wearing night vision goggles. They slowly approach Baldwin's parked car, then unload every round they've got into it. After the smoke clears, they realize they haven't shot Baldwin at all. They've been shooting the dead assassin that Baldwin's been dragging along with him. Now that's why he brought the body. Not a bad decoy, actually. The tailgate of a nearby pickup truck suddenly drops open, and there's Baldwin. He opens fire and drops both assassins. Or so he thinks he does. He walks over to check the bodies, and surprise, one of them was wearing a bulletproof vest. Their surviving assassin, Pizza Lady, jumps up and immediately starts beating the absolute crap out of Baldwin. She knocks him rolling into the shallow water, and Baldwin mostly just stands there taking it. Although last time he let a woman hit him, they ended up making out, so maybe that's his strategy. Pizza Lady throws another kick, and Baldwin finally catches her leg. She reaches for her pistol. He grabs it, then notices a leg strapped to her knife. He pulls it free and stabs her, and she drifts away with the current. And just like that, Pizza Lady's delivery route is officially over. Back aboard the Tortuga, we finally see the total amount of money they've stolen, almost $1 billion.
Billions?
Not bad for a day's work. Meanwhile, Cindy has been tied to a set of pipes somewhere below deck. And as the sun begins to rise, Baldwin tears across the ocean in the Zodiac. He's wearing one of the dead assassin's outfits as a disguise. Apparently it works, because he shoots 2 cars before he even gets off the boat. Not exactly the best security money can buy. Baldwin sneaks through the ship, quietly taking out goon after goon. Unfortunately, his stealth mission doesn't last very long, and he's eventually captured and dragged before Steven in the control room. The two exchange the usual action movie one-liners before Steven casually orders one of his men to kill Baldwin. That doesn't quite go according to plan, and a firefight breaks out. Steven makes a run for Cindy, but she plants a kick right in his chest, sending him crashing into the bomb. The impact knocks it onto the floor and starts the countdown. Whoops! Steven immediately decides discretion is the better part of valor and runs for it while Baldwin blasts away after him. Baldwin unties Cindy, and the two of them race for the upper deck. Steven, meanwhile, he stays behind to finish transferring his stolen $1 billion. Priorities. Our heroes make it to the bridge, only to discover the final door leading outside is locked, cause of course it is. Back in the control room, the transfer completes, and at almost the exact same moment, the bomb timer hits 0. Finally, the bridge door swings open, and Baldwin and Cindy sprint out on the deck just as explosions begin ripping through the ship. They race towards the stern, while fireballs erupt behind them. At the very last second, they dive into the ocean, just as the Tortuga erupts in one massive fireball. Now that's an explosion. The ship continues detonating as our heroes swim away. Eventually they reach the Zodiac and climb aboard. As they watch from a safe distance, the Tortuga begins to sink beneath the waves. And honestly, I think they actually scuttled a real ship for this scene. If they did, that's one hell of a practical effect. As the ship disappears beneath the water, we get one final shot of Steven trapped inside as the water's flooding around him. Not exactly the retirement plan he had in mind. Back aboard the Zodiac, Baldwin and Cindy celebrate the only way 90s action movies knows how, and they make out. The Zodiac motors off into the sunrise, and the credits roll. And wow, that was fucking awesome. I love it when Hollywood accidentally makes a B movie. This thing had everything. Big explosions, great practical stunts, ridiculous 90s hacking, and Cindy Crawford. Honestly, just putting Cindy Crawford in the movie would have been enough to get me watch it, but it turned out to be a genuinely fun action flick. The pacing is relentless. It just goes and goes and goes, bouncing from one action set piece to the next without ever really slowing down. Sure, not every scene works. The whole Selma Hayek subplot doesn't really go anywhere, and Baldwin's bad credit storyline feels like they forgot to finish writing it. Those could have disappeared completely, and the movie would have been exactly the same. My biggest complaint, though, is Steven's motivation for killing Cindy. It never really makes sense. If she had successfully repossessed the ship, it might have complicated his operation, sure, but killing her wouldn't have stopped anything. Another lawyer would have just picked up the case a few days later. In the end, his obsession with eliminating Cindy is exactly what destroyed his entire operation. But honestly, I don't really care. I came here for exploding tow trucks, insane train stunts, helicopters, Russians with magic hacker antennas, and a giant ship blowing up the end. And fair game absolutely delivered. If you're looking for a brain-off 90s action movie with some legitimately impressive practical stunts, I definitely recommend giving this one a watch. Anyway, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
Hold up. Hey.
You know what they call a Florida cop in a three-piece suit?
No. What?
The defendant.
Hey, babe, if you were Domino's, I'd get a discount.
If I were Domino's, you'd still be alive.
Forensic.
It's me, listen.
What if this 33 on the bullet isn't numbers?
Go on.
Well, what if it's letters from some alphabet, like Greek or Hebrew or something?
Hey, you're not as stupid as you look.
I know you're out there listening, you motherfucker.
What? Fuck you calling motherfucker?
You're never gonna get the girl, you understand?
What girl? I already got your girl, Earl. What you talking about? I fucked her last night. And she was good.